Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Force Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Okay, well, we've got a comic that's coming out in a couple months, and I want to talk more about it because we just had an interview with IGN. They talked to Charles Soule, who's going to be working on the Legacy of Vader comic,
Okay, yeah.
which we've already heard a few things about, and it didn't sound super.
Okay.
So let's see if Charles Soule can maybe change our mind.
Can you sell us on this comic book?
Maybe.
Okay.
Because he talks, like, in the interview somewhat about, like, Kylo Ren's struggle to define himself.
He is one of the better Marvel writers, so...
Now this one, The Legacy of Vader, is going to take place after The Last Jedi, which is interesting for Charles Soule because he also wrote in 2019 The Rise of Kylo Ren,
Yep.
which is that miniseries that kind of looked at Kylo Ren leading up to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it explains what goes on with him in the Knights of Ren and a few other things, yeah.
Well, Soule says, I've wanted to get back to Kylo Ren for ages. It's amazing to me that it's been over 4 years since The Rise of Kylo Ren, the miniseries I created with Will Sliney that chronicled Ben Solo's transformation into Kylo Ren. That one was set before Episode 7, and I've always thought there was so much more story to tell with Kylo. Just like Darth Vader, the films only give us so much. A great deal of Kylo's story is either implied or just not really addressed at all.
Yeah,
He's
that's true.
Not
yeah.
wrong.
No.
He goes on to say, I've always thought there was so much more story to tell. I think setting this book directly after Episode 7 gives me a chance to deal with a character who's gone through an extreme amount of change in a very short amount of time. His life has changed in drastic ways. I do think it's a huge opportunity. You want to write characters with emotion to them, and at this point, Kylo's about as emotional as a character can get. This is true. He's just gone through some rough stuff.
Is this after 7 or 8? Or both, because 7 and 8 are kind of back-to-back. Like, there's not a whole lot of time between.
Well, he had one set before 7, so I thought this one I thought it was supposed to be set after The Last Jedi.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
8, yeah.
I probably said the wrong number
Yeah,
earlier.
I think you said 7.
It's after Last Jedi.
Yeah.
My bad. And yeah, he did have some drastic life changes, to say the least.
Well, he becomes Supreme Chancellor. He has the whole ordeal with Rey. He kills Snoke. He encounters Luke. I mean, it's Kylo's big day, right?
Right, this is the...
And I mean, that is over the course of a couple days. From the beginning of The Force Awakens to the end of The Last Jedi is a couple days, literally. So, in story.
Well, Soule says, poor Ben, we know he's still in there, somewhere, because of the things we see in both The Last Jedi and then The Rise of Skywalker. But at this particular moment, he's been shoved down into some dark corner of Kylo Ren's psyche. In a very short amount of time, Kylo's faced down one of his greatest mentors in Luke Skywalker, killed another in Snoke, killed his father, almost killed his mother,
Yep.
met someone with whom he's felt a unique, powerful connection in Rey, and assumed total control of one, if not the most powerful military organizations in the galaxy. All that in what seems to be a matter of weeks. Kylo wants to move forward, but all of that trauma and intensity is very fresh and not easy to get past.
Sure. Again, that is a lot.
There's
That
a lot,
character.
and I feel like that actually does need to get explored. Because, like,
Well, I mean...
with all that piled on him and his character, like, drastically changing in between movies, well, it'd be interesting to see how he's affected by these things.
Well, we know he goes back to the helmet, of course, in The Rise of Skywalker,
Yep.
and seems to go back to his Vader fascination. The helmet gets a special pedestal in his Star Destroyer, as we see.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the sequel. Doesn't mean I can't take any interest in some of the characters and the stories here. So I guess I'm curious to see what Soule tries to do with Kylo Ren here.
We do know that the series is going to kind of, like, open up with Ben traveling to Mustafar to visit his grandfather's fortress.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to call it Vader Prime. Ben is trying to kill the past, but to do so, he wants to commune with the ghost of the man who inspired him. Figuratively, if not literally. Yes, he wants to talk to Vader.
Okay.
Soule
Well,
kind
he's
of
been talking to his
teases
helmet.
that Ben is conflicted about his connection to Anakin Skywalker, as he is with everything else in his life. He says, one of the key things to understand about Kylo is that he's not particularly honest with himself. As I see his character, he's big on grand pronouncements, big on posturing, big on trying to convince himself he feels a certain way. Example, untouchable and all-powerful. In reality, though, he's pretty lost. So while he's telling himself he wants to kill his own past, part of him is also looking for any sort of guidance he can get, That kind of sums up his feelings about his grandfather at this point. He's conflicted.
Well, if they hold to the book bloodline, that means Ben didn't really find out about Vader being his grandfather until many years late, until a few years, about 7 years before The Force Awakens, or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pretty old. I mean, not old, but he's a young adult at that point. So he's gone his whole life not knowing the truth about his heritage there.
And now that's been heaped upon him, he's looking for resolve and answers, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Don't worry. I do have word that General Hux is going to be in this, as well as General Pride. They're going to be around to complicate things.
Sure.
I mean, the younger brother wants to take over or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
they had a weird, fun relationship.
I thought they were pretty good in the Force Awakens. Their little sibling rivalry, and then it kind of... I mean, The Last Jedi just took a lot of the ideas of the Force Awakens and neglected them, or just ignored them, basically, for better or worse.
Well, Soul also is kind of dealing with the challenges of how to approach the whole series, because the fandom has such various outlooks on Kylo Ren and who he is. Some are like, he's just a broken boy, he needs a hug, and others are like, oh no, he's crazy, he's out there.
I can see both sides of that.
So Soul took them both into account. He says, this book is about Kylo Ren's struggle to define himself, and it's not easy for him. It feels like every moment of his life is accompanied by turmoil and pain. Some fans would say that's because he's not himself as Kylo. Part of him knows he's truly Ben, and the story can be viewed through that perspective. But I also think it works if you know nothing about Kylo Ren other than what you see in these beautifully drawn pages, that he's searching for himself like many younger people do. Of course, he's also a dark space wizard with a laser sword he loves to use to deadly effect whenever he feels like it. There's plenty of angst and drama, but we don't stint on the action either. I think fans will love it.
I hope it's good.
It's coming out February 5th with Star Wars Legacy of Vader.
Let's keep in mind he does feel the pull to the light, as he says in The Force Awakens, meaning basically he doesn't really fully embrace the dark side, or doesn't want to. There's a part of him that wants to, rejoin the light, I suppose, which is an interesting, I'll say that, it's an interesting idea that you're being pulled back to the light. Usually we hear about the pull to the dark side. That makes a little more sense, but it's interesting.
It is very interesting. And don't forget, if you abbreviate Legacy of Vader, it does say love.
Oh, goodness.
No, I'm very interested in this comic, and I know I've kind of stepped away from comic books a little bit. I've been trying super busy
hey,
and
read
stuff.
Read this. Let's talk about this. And
I've just been super busy and stuff.
Make time. There's always time for Star Wars.
All right. You know what there is time for? The Advent calendar update.
Okay.
Today we have a 501st Clone Trooper.
Cool.
I like it because it's not a pancake ship, which was the last couple of days. Pancake ships
have been pancake ships. So 501st Clone Trooper is always nice.
No, I welcome the Clone Trooper.
Welcome to the collection. He makes a
I can pretend
fine
he's
edition,
sexy Rexy.
No, he's not.
He's not. No.
There is only one.
Yeah, and it's not generic 501st Clone Trooper that came in my box.
No. All right, well, I think that is going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take it to the comments below. Tell us what you think of any and all of today's news. Let's talk some Star Wars. And so until next time, thanks for watching.